All right, let's talk about something that gets every creator, every artist, pretty much anyone trying to build something: criticism. It can stop you dead in your tracks. But what we're really gonna get into is how to finally tune it out and get back to work. I mean, really think about it. You've spent weeks, maybe even months, on something you truly believe in. You finally put it out there, you're holding your breath, and then, bam. One comment, one review. Just a few harsh words that feel like a physical blow. This is a true story. Back in 2009, an indie developer named Dave launched a little app he'd built. Day one, a single one-star review pops up. And the comment? It was just one word: garbage. And you know what Dave did? He pulled the entire app from the store. That quote you see, that was him looking back on it. He realized he wasn't just pulling an app. He was running away from the feeling of being judged. Welcome to Smiling Cottage. And the reason I'm sharing this today is because Dave's story, it reveals this hidden cost that goes way beyond a one-star review. It's not just about hurt feelings or a bruised ego. The real damage, the thing that truly holds us back, is that criticism can paralyze our ability to do anything. It just shuts down our capacity to act. So why? Why does this happen? Why is it that one negative comment can completely overshadow 100 positive ones? Well, it turns out this isn't some personal weakness. It's actually a feature, not a bug, of the very old hardware we're all running on. Let's take a look at your Stone Age brain. You know, when we get feedback, there are really only two ways it can go. Path A, that's the ideal. That's the creator's path. You get some criticism, you analyze it for anything useful, you make things better, and you keep going. But then there's path B. And this is the one most of us take without even thinking. We get criticism, we internalize it, we make it about us, and it feels so invalidating that we just stop.
So that's the million-dollar question, right? If path A is obviously the better way to go, why do we almost always find ourselves stuck on path B? Well, it's not because we're weak. It's because our brains are basically wired for a world that doesn't exist anymore.
This leads us to something called Dunbar's number. An evolutionary psychologist named Robin Dunbar figured out that our brains can really only keep track of about 150 stable relationships. And for most of human history, that's the size of the tribe we lived in. In that world, a bad review from someone in your tribe was a very, very serious threat. And here it is. This is the core of the problem. Back then, being judged or kicked out of your tribe meant losing food, shelter, safety. It could literally mean death. So our brains evolved this incredibly intense sensitivity to social judgment. And today, that same ancient survival logic is processing a random anonymous internet comment. That one word, garbage, feels like a threat to our very existence. So if we're hardwired to overreact like this, what in the world can we do about it? We can't exactly rewire our brains, but we can adopt a new mental model to help us sort things out. Let's talk about separating the signal from the noise. This idea actually comes from information theory, from a genius named Shannon. The concept is pretty simple. In any kind of communication, you have the useful information, that's the signal. And then you have all the useless static and interference, that's the noise. And how well a system works depends on its ability to pull that clean signal out from all that messy background noise. We can apply this exact same idea to feedback. Signal is specific, it's actionable. Your product loads too slowly. Okay, that's a signal. I can work on that. The logic jumps in paragraph 3. Great, I can fix it. But noise is just vague, emotional judgment. Garbage, unprofessional. That's pure noise. It gives you nothing to work with. It's just interference. But here's the trap. Because of that Stone Age brain we were just talking about, our emotional receivers, they're often tuned completely backwards. We amplify the noise. That one word, garbage, becomes deafening, and it completely drowns out any of the useful signal that could actually help us get better. Okay, so how do we fix this? How do we retune our receivers? For an incredible example of this in action, let's look at someone who totally nailed it, the founder of Spanx, Sara Blakely. So get this, when Sara Blakely came up with the idea for Spanx, she did something pretty radical. For a full year, she told almost no one. It wasn't because she was secretive or arrogant. It's because she knew that early on, most opinions are just noise. So she created what you could call a silent period. She shut down the noise sources and only reached out for very specific technical help that she needed to actually build the thing. See, Sara Blakely just instinctively understood this incredibly powerful rule. Produce results first, then listen to feedback. Never, ever reverse that order. Once you have something real, a prototype, some data, even a few sales, then you can open yourself up to feedback because now you have a filter. You have something to judge that feedback against. Okay, so let's make this super practical. Here's a toolkit for how you can do this. First, you gotta consciously separate the work from yourself. Ask the question, is this feedback about the thing I made or is it about me? Second, try setting a silent period for new projects, just like Sara did. And third, build your own scorecard. Decide what success looks like for you and measure your own progress instead of letting others do it for you. And that brings us to the last piece of the puzzle. And honestly, this might be the most important mindset shift of all. We have to completely reframe how we think about perfection. Because it turns out, imperfection is actually a superpower. This quote from Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, it's famous for a reason. The point isn't to make bad stuff. The point is that perfection is an illusion. The only way to really know if something is any good is to get it out into the world and see how people react. Shipping early, even when it's a little embarrassing, just means you start learning that much sooner. And there's an amazing parallel for this in biology. Think about it. A species that is perfectly adapted to its environment is actually the most fragile. The second the environment changes, they're the first to go extinct because they have no variation, no room to adapt. It's the imperfect species, the ones with all the variety, that actually survive. And that's the big idea here. Imperfection isn't a flaw. It's potential. It's the space you need to change, to evolve, and to adapt. It's not weakness, it's resilience. That desire to be perfect before you even start, that's a trap, and it just makes you more fragile. So let's bring it all home. Critics are always going to be there, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're alive, you're creating, you're putting yourself out there. And when you really think about it, the only way to guarantee you'll never ever be criticized is to never do anything at all. And that is a much, much bigger failure than any one-star review could ever be. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who needs it. This is Smiling Cottage. I'm Bright. See you next time.